Everything in your life is a reaction. Every argument, every insult, every setback, every disappointment, how you respond determines whether you rise or fall. Right now, you are living at the mercy of your impulses, your emotions, your triggers. But what if I told you that mastering one simple skill, how you react, can make you untouchable, unstoppable, and unshakable? Today, you will learn how to take control of your mind, control your reactions, and finally live life on your terms. No excuses, no distractions. Let's begin. Chapter 1. Stop reacting. Start responding. You are about to discover one of the most important truths about success, control, and power. It is simple, it is overlooked, and it separates the weak from the unstoppable. That truth is this: you have a choice. Every single moment, every interaction, every situation, you have a choice. You can react or you can respond. That's it. That's the power. That's the key. And until you fully understand it, life will continue to control you. Let's break this down. Reacting is automatic. It is immediate. It is emotional. You see something, you feel something, you act. No thought, no pause, just a reflex. That's what most people do. Most people live at the mercy of their impulses, and that is why they wake up one day exhausted, angry, regretful, and wondering how life got so messy. Responding, on the other hand, is deliberate. It is conscious. It is measured. You see something, you feel something, you pause. You choose your action. That is power. That is control. That is mastery. When you respond instead of reacting, you take life by the reins. You dictate the outcome. You set the tone. And that is exactly what we are going to train you to do. Here's a real-world example. Imagine a workplace. Tensions are high. Deadlines are crushing. A colleague snaps at you. They criticize your work in front of others. Most people would react. They would fire back. They would shout. They would let emotion dictate behavior. And the result? Conflict escalates. Reputation is damaged. Opportunities slip away. But now, picture someone who responds. They feel the irritation. They feel the sting. They notice the emotion rising, but instead of immediately speaking, they pause. 1 second. 2 seconds. They take a breath, and then they respond with calm, with precision. Maybe they say, "I hear your concern. Let's address this after the meeting." Or maybe they ask a question to clarify. The emotional spike is diffused. The situation is controlled. The outcome is completely different. The power is theirs. That's the difference between reacting and responding. That's the difference between being controlled and being in control. Now, this is not just theory. You will practice this today, tonight, tomorrow. Whenever someone triggers you, whenever a situation arises, whenever you feel the pull of immediate reaction, pause, think, respond. Say it with me. Pause, think, respond. Let it echo in your mind. Let it settle in your body. Make it muscle memory. Every time without fail, you have a choice. You do not have to act on every emotion. You do not have to let someone else dictate your behavior. You do not have to lose control. You have a choice. And let me be brutally honest with you. This is hard at first. Your brain, your instincts, they are wired for immediate reaction. That is natural. That is human. But you are not here to be natural. You are here to be extraordinary. You are here to take control of the life that most people lose by accident. You are here to master your mind. And that takes repetition. That takes discipline. That takes awareness. Here's how you start. Step 1. Identify the trigger. Pay attention to what makes you react. Is it criticism? Is it disrespect? Is it delay? Name it. Own it. Know it. Step 2. Pause. Literally, stop. Take 1, 2, 3 seconds.
That is enough time for your prefrontal cortex to kick in, for rational thought to replace instinct. Step 3, choose your response. Ask yourself, what outcome do I want? Then respond intentionally. This is not about suppressing your emotions. This is about controlling them. You don't need their permission. You don't need validation. You don't need revenge. You need control. That is the key. Repeat after me. I control my actions. I control my reactions. I control my life. Say it again. I control my actions. I control my reactions. I control my life. Let it sink in. The more you repeat it, the more your mind starts to believe it. The more your mind believes it, the easier it becomes to practice. And the more you practice, the less power life has over you. Let me give you another example. You're driving. Someone cuts you off. Your first instinct might be anger, a middle finger, a yell, a hump. That's a reaction. That's the moment life controls you. But if you respond, you take a breath, you slow down, you acknowledge the situation. Maybe you even say to yourself, this is not worth my energy. I am calm. I am in control. You arrive at your destination without giving your power away. One small pause, one deliberate response, you take control. That's the key. You will find this principle applies everywhere. At work, in relationships, in social media, in traffic, in your thoughts, in your goals. Everywhere. Every single interaction, every single choice is an opportunity to pause, think, and respond. You must drill this into your mind. You must repeat it until it is automatic. You must live it until it becomes who you are. Because here's the truth. Reacting is easy. Responding is hard. Responding is rare, and rarity is power. Now, let's put it into practice with a personal challenge. Today, identify 3 moments where your first impulse is to react. Maybe it's a text. Maybe it's a comment. Maybe it's a minor inconvenience. Pause, think, respond. Notice the difference. See how it feels to be in control. See how it changes the outcome. This is not theory. This is actionable transformation. Every reaction you control builds mental toughness. Every pause strengthens discipline. Every deliberate response teaches your mind who's in charge. You. And one more thing. You will fail at first. That is normal. That is human. But failure is only failure if you do not learn from it. Next time, you pause sooner. Next time, you respond more deliberately. And with every repetition, you are building an unshakable habit. You are rewiring your brain to choose control over chaos. You are mastering your reactions before life masters you. That is your mission. That is your challenge. That is your path. You have now understood the difference. You have seen why it matters. You have learned the tools. Now it's time to own it. Pause, think, respond. Say it one last time. Say it until it is burning in your mind. Say it until it's in your blood. Pause, think, respond. That is the key. That is the path to power. That is the foundation of everything else we will build in this book. You mastered the first step. You learned that control is choice. You learned that reaction is weakness. You learned that response is power. Now, let's take this lesson even deeper. You mastered your reactions. Now let's talk about how to turn every moment into unshakable calm under pressure.
Chapter 2. Your emotions are not you. You are about to learn one of the most misunderstood truths about human behavior. Most people live in their emotions. Most people let feelings dictate decisions, reactions, and even their self-worth. And that is weakness. That is chaos. That is being controlled by forces outside your power. But here's the truth. Your emotions are not you. That is the key. They are signals. They are temporary. They are fleeting. They are manageable. And once you understand this, nothing, no insult, no setback, no fear can control you.
Let's start with the basics. Emotions exist for a reason. Fear is a warning. Anger is energy. Sadness is a signal to rest, to reflect, to reset. But most people treat emotions like commands. They feel fear and they run. They feel anger and they lash out. They feel doubt and they freeze. That is living without control. That is living on autopilot. That is giving power away. And you are better than that. You are here to take back control. You have a choice. You always have a choice. Repeat this with me. I control my emotions. My emotions do not control me. Say it again. I control my emotions. My emotions do not control me. Let it sink in. Let it become your mantra, because repetition creates mastery, and mastery is exactly what we are building here. Let me give you a real-world example. Imagine a championship athlete. The game is tied. Seconds left on the clock. The crowd is roaring. His heart is racing. His muscles are tense. His mind is screaming, "You will fail. You can't do this." Most people would crumble. Most people would give in to fear. But not this athlete. He knows the truth. Fear is just a signal. Fear is not a command. He takes a deep breath. He focuses. He channels the energy into precision. He executes. He scores. He wins. That is the difference. He did not eliminate fear. He controlled it. He used it. And that is exactly what you must do with your emotions. Now, let's break it down into actionable steps. Step 1. Observe your emotion. When you feel anger, sadness, fear, or anxiety, notice it. Name it. Say it to yourself. I feel fear. I feel frustration. I feel doubt. That's the key. Naming the emotion removes its power over you. You are not the emotion. You are the observer. You have a choice. Step 2. Pause and breathe. This is simple but underused. Take a slow, deep breath. Inhale, hold, exhale. Do it 2-3 times. Physically, your body is calming. Mentally, your mind is preparing for choice. You are no longer reacting. You are responding. You are taking control. That is discipline. That is power. Repeat it. I control my emotions. My emotions do not control me. Step 3. Channel the emotion into action. Every emotion carries energy. Fear can sharpen focus. Anger can fuel determination. Sadness can build empathy. Anxiety can inspire preparation. The key is to decide how to use the energy. You don't need permission. You don't need validation. You have control. You have a choice. Every emotion is an opportunity to take action that aligns with your goals, not your impulses. Let's make it practical. Imagine a work presentation. You are nervous. Your palms are sweating. Your heart is racing. Most people would let the fear control them. They stumble. They second guess. They fail. But now you know the truth. Fear is not you. It is energy. Channel it. Use it. To rehearse. Use it to sharpen your delivery. Use it to dominate the room. The emotion is there. You feel it. You notice it. You decide how to use it. That is control. That is power. That is mastery. And this works outside of high-pressure moments too. Relationships, arguments, unexpected news, traffic jams, emails, social media. Everywhere emotions appear, you have the same choice. Pause, observe, decide, respond deliberately. I control my emotions. My emotions do not control me. Repeat it, drill it, live it, make it habit. That habit will define the quality of your life. That habit will separate you from the majority. That habit will make you unshakable. Here's a crucial insight. Emotions are temporary. They rise, they peak, they fade. Feeling overwhelmed, angry, or sad right now does not mean you will feel that way in 5 minutes, in 10 minutes, in an hour. That is why pausing is powerful. That is why repetition is crucial. That is why awareness is non-negotiable. You have a choice. You always have a choice. You are not your emotions. You are the one choosing what to do with them. That is discipline. That is mental toughness. Let's take it deeper. Many people believe that controlling emotions means suppressing them. That's wrong. Suppression leads to explosion. Suppression leads to regret. Suppression leads to loss of control. You are not suppressing. You are directing. You are converting raw energy into strategic, intentional action. That is the difference. Suppression is weakness. Direction is strength. Remember, it's not about the emotion, it's about the discipline. Repeat it. It's not about the emotion, it's about the discipline. That is your mantra. That is your tool. That is your weapon. Now, I want you to make this personal. Identify a situation where your emotions have ruled your actions recently. Maybe it was a disagreement. Maybe it was fear of speaking up. Maybe it was self-doubt. Visualize it. Replay it in your mind. Now, imagine responding differently. Imagine pausing. Imagine observing. Imagine channeling the energy instead of letting it control you. That is your transformation. That is your training. That is your path to mastery. You have a choice. You always have a choice. Here's the final drill. Every morning, say this aloud. Say it with power. Say it until it resonates in your bones. I control my emotions. My emotions do not control me. I have a choice. I have power. I respond deliberately. Repeat it. Repeat again and again. Let it guide every moment. Let it define every interaction. Let it become the core of who you are. This is how ordinary people become unshakable. This is how chaos becomes clarity. This is how life bends to the one who controls their mind, not their feelings. You mastered the understanding. You saw that fear, anger, frustration, and doubt are not commands. You saw that they are temporary, that they are manageable, that they are energy waiting for direction. You saw that discipline, not emotion, creates power. Now you are ready to take that understanding into action. You learned control. You learned observation. You learned direction. And this will prepare you for the next level of your growth. You mastered your emotions. Now let's talk about how to turn every moment into unshakable calm under pressure.
Chapter 3. The Hidden Cost of Reacting. Let's get real. Most people live their lives on autopilot. They react first. They think later. They lash out. They vent. They swipe, post, comment, yell, argue, and regret. And here's the truth you need to hear. Every reaction has a price. Every reaction has a cost. That is not optional. That is fact. Every single time you react impulsively, you pay. You pay in relationships. You pay in opportunities. You pay in your reputation. And if you don't learn this lesson, you will keep paying over and over without even realizing it. Let's break it down. Reactions are immediate, automatic, and emotional. They feel satisfying in the moment. They give you the illusion of control, but it's a lie. That brief spike of satisfaction comes with a bill attached. It comes with consequences. Let's start with relationships. A harsh word spoken in anger, a text sent in frustration, a disagreement escalated because someone refused to pause. That one reaction can linger for weeks, months, even years. Trust is broken. Respect is damaged. Distance grows. You will feel justified. You will think, I was right. I had to react. But the truth is, you paid. Every reaction has a price. Every reaction has a cost. Repeat it. Say it until it sinks in. Every reaction has a price. Every reaction has a cost. This is not limited to social media. It's in your personal life, your family, your friends, your colleagues. Reacting impulsively creates unnecessary conflict. Reacting impulsively damages trust. Reacting impulsively erodes influence. And influence, make no mistake, is currency. The more you react, the more value you give away. The more you respond deliberately, the more power you retain. That's the key. Now let's talk about the mental toll. Reacting keeps you trapped in cycles of stress and regret. Your brain lights up with anger, frustration, resentment. Cortisol spikes, sleep is affected, focus drops. You carry emotional baggage from moments that could have been controlled with one simple pause. And the next time something triggers you, the cycle repeats. That is the hidden cost.
It's invisible, but it's real. Every reaction has a price. Every reaction has a cost. Say it, repeat it, drill it into your mind until it becomes instinctive. Here's what you need to do to stop paying unnecessary costs. Step 1, notice the impulse to react right as it rises. That first flash of anger, frustration, or defensiveness is your signal. Step 2, pause. Take a breath. 1, 2, 3. Step 3, choose your response deliberately. Ask yourself, what is the desired outcome? Not what feels good, not what satisfies the ego, not what proves a point. The outcome. That is the only thing that matters. That is discipline. That is control. That is mastery. Let's make it practical. Imagine a friend insults you. Your first thought is to fire back. But now you pause. You breathe. You respond with calm. Maybe you say nothing. Maybe you ask a question. Maybe you redirect the conversation. The insult loses its power. You keep your influence. You preserve the relationship. You avoid paying a cost you don't need to pay. Every reaction has a price. Every reaction has a cost. And you just avoided it. That is power. That is control. That is discipline. Here's another example. At work, a manager criticizes your work in front of the team. Most people react. They argue. They justify. They lash out. The room shifts. Tension rises. Respect is lost. Opportunities evaporate. But you pause. You listen. You clarify. You control your emotion. You respond intentionally. You preserve credibility. You gain respect. You avoid paying the cost. That is the difference between mediocrity and mastery. That is the key. And let's not forget internal reactions, how you react to yourself. Negative thoughts, self-doubt, fear of failure. Impulsively believing them, reacting to them, letting them control your decisions, that's a hidden cost too. Every time you react internally without pause, you erode confidence, productivity, and momentum. Instead, observe. Label the thought. Say, this is just a thought. I have a choice. That is discipline. That is mastery. That is mental toughness. You must drill this principle into your life. Every interaction, every conversation, every challenge, every disappointment, every setback. Pause, assess, respond deliberately. Remember, every reaction has a price. Every reaction has a cost. Repeat it. Repeat it. Make it part of your identity. Make it part of your daily practice. Every reaction you control strengthens your mental resilience. Every pause builds your authority. Every deliberate response increases your power. That is the path to mastery. Now, here's the truth that most people never learn. You can't avoid life's triggers. You can't avoid conflict, criticism, or challenges. They will come. But you can avoid unnecessary costs. You can choose discipline over impulsiveness. You can choose calm over chaos. You can choose power over weakness. That is the difference between someone who drifts through life reacting and someone who dominates life responding. You have a choice. You always have a choice. That is the key. You understand the hidden cost now. You understand that every reaction, no matter how small, has consequences. You see that relationships, careers, opportunities, and even your own peace of mind are all on the line. You have the power to avoid the trap. You have the power to pause, to observe, to respond deliberately. You have the power to choose discipline over impulse. You have the power to master your reactions before life masters you. You mastered awareness of the cost. Now let's go deeper. Next, we explore mental armor, how to build unshakable strength so you don't just avoid the cost, but you thrive under pressure. Chapter 4. Build your mental armor. You are about to step into a level most people will never reach. Most people are fragile. Most people crumble under pressure.
Most people let stress, chaos, and unexpected challenges dictate their lives. And that is weakness. That is failure. That is wasted potential. But here's the truth. You can build mental armor. You can create a mind that is unshakable. You can train yourself to remain calm when everyone else panics. You can develop resilience so strong nothing can touch you. That is the key, and it starts now. Let's define what mental armor is. Mental armor is not arrogance. It is not pretending to be fearless. It is not hiding emotion. Mental armor is control. Mental armor is preparation. Mental armor is discipline. It is the ability to face stress, fear, uncertainty, and challenge and respond deliberately. It is the difference between reacting with panic and responding with precision. That is the difference between being a victim and being a master. That is why we are here. The first step to building mental armor is visualization. Most people underestimate the power of their imagination, but your brain doesn't distinguish well between real and vividly imagined experiences. If you rehearse scenarios in your mind, stressful conversations, high-pressure meetings, dangerous situations, your brain starts to wire itself for calm and control. You are practicing mastery before the challenge even arrives. That is discipline. That is preparation. That is power. Repeat this mantra as you train. I am untouchable. I am calm. I am in control. Repeat it until it's in your blood. Let's make it concrete. Imagine a critical presentation at work. You are nervous. The stakes are high. You visualize yourself walking into the room. You see the faces of your audience. You feel the room's tension. And then you rehearse every word, every gesture, every confident pause. You feel the nerves, acknowledge them, and let them flow into calm authority. When the actual moment comes, your mind has been conditioned. You are prepared. You are in control. That is the power of mental rehearsal. That is the power of visualization. That is mental armor. Step 2 is stress inoculation, training your mind to handle discomfort without panic. Military and special forces use this constantly. They put soldiers in extreme conditions, simulate threats, and push them to operate under pressure. Why? Because stress is inevitable. Panic is optional. The more you experience controlled stress, the less it controls you in real life. You can apply this principle immediately. Expose yourself to controlled challenges, public speaking, cold showers, timed exercises, tough workouts, high-pressure deadlines. Every controlled stress you endure without losing composure strengthens your armor. Every challenge you master increases your calm. That is the key. That is control. That is discipline. Step 3 is emotional detachment without indifference. This is critical. Being untouchable does not mean being cold or disconnected. It means observing your emotions without letting them hijack your actions. You feel fear. You feel anger. You feel frustration. You notice it. You acknowledge it. And then you make a conscious choice. I am untouchable. I am calm. I am in control. You channel the energy without being consumed. You redirect it to deliberate action. That is the essence of mental armor. That is the essence of resilience. That is the key to thriving under pressure. Repetition is your weapon. Every morning, every night, every moment before a challenge, say, I am untouchable. I am calm. I am in control. Say it, feel it, live it, drill it into your mind until it becomes automatic. Because the mind obeys repetition. The mind obeys conditioning. The mind obeys discipline. And a disciplined mind is untouchable. That is the path to mental mastery. Let's apply it to real life. Imagine an argument with a colleague. They try to provoke you. Most people react. Most people get upset. Most people escalate. You pause. You breathe. You visualize calm control.
You respond deliberately. You channel energy into strategy, not impulse. You maintain authority. You preserve relationships. You gain respect. That is mental armor in action. That is the payoff for deliberate practice. That is power. That is control. Another example, competition, sports, or high-stakes performance. Athletes don't just train their bodies, they train their minds. They rehearse the worst-case scenario. They visualize failure, and then they see themselves overcoming it. They feel fear in controlled conditions, learn to channel it, and develop an unshakable calm. When the moment arrives, the crowd roars, pressure peaks, stakes skyrocket. They are ready. Their mental armor shields them. They are untouchable. You can do the same. This is not magic. This is consistent practice. This is discipline. This is mental toughness. Now, internal dialogue is just as important. Your thoughts are powerful. Most people react to negative thoughts immediately. I can't do this. I'm not good enough. I will fail. That's weakness. That's cost. You do not need to obey every thought. You have a choice. Observe the thought. Name it. Neutralize it. Replace it. I am untouchable. I am calm. I am in control. Say it. Repeat it. Drill it. Internal mastery is part of your mental armor. Every thought you control builds resilience. Every controlled thought strengthens your calm. That is the key. Here's the daily drill for mental armor. Morning visualization. See the challenges of the day and imagine responding with calm, control, and precision. Controlled exposure. Practice stress in small, safe ways, building tolerance without panic. Mantra repetition. Repeat, I am untouchable. I am calm. I am in control, until it becomes reflexive. Evening reflection. Review moments where you maintained control and plan improvements where you faltered. Do this consistently, and you will notice a change. Life's triggers will no longer shake you. Pressure will feel like a tool, not a threat. Chaos will become clarity. You will move through challenges like a seasoned warrior, deliberate, focused, and untouchable. That is the goal. That is the payoff. That is mental armor. Remember, the foundation of mental armor is choice. You always have a choice. You always have the power to pause. You always have the power to respond deliberately. You always have the power to maintain calm when others lose theirs. That is the key. You don't need their permission to control your mind. You don't need validation to remain unshakable. You don't need approval to master your mental state. Discipline is everything. Discipline is your shield. Discipline is your armor. You now have the tools. You understand the exercises. You have the mantra. You have the examples. The rest is up to you. Mental armor is built with repetition, with deliberate practice, and with relentless awareness. The stronger your mind, the calmer your response, the higher your influence, the more power you retain. You are building yourself into someone untouchable, someone calm, someone in control. That is the transformation. That is mastery. That is the key to life under your command. You mastered the first level of resilience. You built awareness of emotional triggers. You strengthened your mind through visualization, mental rehearsal, and stress inoculation. You repeated your mantra. You practiced deliberate control. You are untouchable. Now, let's take this a step further. Next, we explore how to leverage discipline to dominate distractions and seize focus.
Chapter 5. Silence is a weapon. Most people don't understand this. Most people think speaking up, reacting immediately, or expressing every thought is strength. It is not. It is weakness. It is impulsiveness. It is giving your power away. The strongest, most powerful people in the world understand a simple truth. Silence is a weapon. Silence is strength. Silence is power. Silence wins. That is the key.
And if you learn this, you will control situations, people, and outcomes far beyond your current level. Let's be clear. Silence is not cowardice. Silence is not submission. Silence is not weakness. Silence is strategic. Silence is deliberate. Silence is control. Most people react. Most people speak first, think later, and regret always. But when you learn to master silence, you gain leverage. You gain influence. You gain clarity. That is discipline. That is power. That is mental toughness. Repeat it. Silence is strength. Silence is power. Silence wins. Drill it into your mind. Make it your instinct. Step 1. Pause before responding. Every time someone provokes you, challenges you, or triggers an emotional reaction, pause. Do not speak immediately. Do not react automatically. Observe, assess, decide. Silence creates a gap, and in that gap, you gain control. You gain perspective. You gain the opportunity to respond deliberately rather than react impulsively. That is mastery. That is the edge. That's the difference between those who are controlled by their environment and those who control it. Here's an example from leadership. Powerful CEOs, diplomats, and military commanders rarely speak first. They listen. They absorb information. They watch reactions. They wait. And when they do speak, it is precise, deliberate, and commanding. Their words carry weight because they are measured. Their silence builds anticipation. Their silence creates authority. When you speak only when it matters, every word carries power. Every pause builds respect. Every measured response increases influence. That is the key. That is your advantage. Step 2. Use silence to create leverage. When you are silent, people reveal more than they intend. They over-explain. They expose weaknesses. They act without thinking. Silence forces others to fill the gap. And in that gap, you gain information. You gain understanding. You gain power. Most people speak too much. Most people give away secrets, strategies, and emotional energy through words. You, on the other hand, can conserve your energy, analyze theirs, and act with precision. That is discipline. That is control. That is mental armor in action. Let's make it practical. Imagine a negotiation. Most people talk too much. They give away concessions before even asking for what they want. They reveal urgency, weakness, or doubt. But if you remain silent after presenting your terms, the other party starts talking. They reveal their limits. They negotiate against themselves. Silence becomes your weapon. Silence becomes leverage. Repeat the mantra. Silence is strength. Silence is power. Silence wins. Every pause is a tactical advantage. Every pause is a strategic choice. Step 3. Silence protects your energy. Words cost energy. Reactions cost energy. Arguments cost energy. Every time you speak impulsively or react immediately, you give away power, focus, and influence. Silence preserves it. Silence directs it. Silence allows you to invest energy only where it creates results. Discipline is energy management. Discipline is power conservation. Discipline is silence turned into a weapon. That is the key. You have a choice. You always have a choice. Consider personal interactions. Someone insults you. Someone challenges your authority. Someone tests your patience. Most people react immediately. Most people speak first, defend themselves, or argue, and they pay the cost. But you pause. You breathe. You remain silent. You choose your words deliberately. Your calmness communicates more than any argument ever could. You control the room without saying a word. That is influence. That is mastery. That is power. Step 4. Practice selective expression. Not every thought, not every feeling, not every opinion deserves to be spoken. Most people live in a state of oversharing. Social media, text messages, arguments, people reveal far too much too soon. You don't need their permission to remain silent. You don't need validation to hold your thoughts. You don't need approval to control your words. When you speak only when it matters, every statement you make has weight. Every response carries authority. Every word becomes a tool rather than a weapon against yourself. That is discipline. That is control. That is the key. Here's a practical drill. Every day, identify one moment to remain silent where you would normally react. Observe your impulses. Notice the urge to speak, defend, or justify. Pause, breathe, and visualize the outcome of speaking versus remaining silent. Choose silence deliberately. Notice the effect it has on the situation. Repeat this daily and watch your power, focus, and influence grow exponentially. That is how leaders are forged. That is how discipline turns into authority. That is mental toughness in action. Remember, silence is also about listening. Most people fail because they hear, but they do not listen. Listening is active. Listening gathers information. Listening exposes intentions. Listening allows strategy. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is attention. Silence is preparation. Silence is dominance without aggression. And when paired with deliberate action, silence is unstoppable. That is the key. That is power. That is influence. Now, internal silence is equally important. Your thoughts, your impulses, your internal reactions. Most people let mental chatter control their actions. They argue with themselves, panic internally, and react externally. But you can master internal silence. You can pause thoughts, observe impulses, and choose your responses deliberately. You can control the noise. You can control the mind. You can control the outcome. That is the essence of mental armor. That is discipline. That is dominance. Finally, repetition makes it automatic. Every moment of temptation to react, speak, or defend, repeat your mantra. Silence is strength. Silence is power. Wins. Drill it. Repeat it. Live it. Make it instinct. Make it identity. Make it habit. Because mastery comes not from knowing, but from consistent, deliberate practice. That is how ordinary people become unshakable. That is how chaos is turned into clarity. That is discipline becomes the ultimate weapon. You mastered the lesson of pause, of restraint, of deliberate silence. You understand that every word has weight. Every pause creates power, and every measured response builds influence. You have the tools. You have the mantra. You have the strategy. You are no longer at the mercy of impulse, anger, or external chaos. You are building a mind that is untouchable. You are building influence that is undeniable. That is transformation. That is power. That is the key to mastering yourself and your environment. You mastered restraint. You mastered leverage. You mastered the weapon of silence. Now, let's take this power and focus it on the next battlefield, your attention, your energy, your life.
Chapter 6: The Power of the Pause. Let me tell you something most people never learn. Most people live their lives reacting, immediately, impulsively, and often regretfully.
They speak before thinking. They act before seeing the full picture. They let emotions dictate their decisions. And every time they do, they pay a cost. Every single time. But here's the truth that separates the ordinary from the extraordinary. Power lives in the pause. That split second between stimulus and response is where control, strategy, and dominance are born. Master it, and you master yourself. That is the key. Pause is not weakness. Pause is not hesitation. Pause is deliberate. Pause is a weapon. It is the difference between losing your temper and gaining influence, between regret and opportunity, between mediocrity and mastery. Every action, every word, every reaction has consequences, and the moment before you act is your moment of power. That's where you make the difference. That's where you decide. That's where you choose. Repeat it. 3 seconds, one choice, total control. Drill it into your mind. Make it instinct. Make it automatic. Let's start with the simplest technique, the 3-second pause. That's all it takes. 3 seconds. That's all the time you need to regain control, observe, and respond deliberately. It's not about hesitation, it's about discipline. It's about choosing your actions instead of letting your emotions choose for you. The next time someone provokes you, challenges you, or irritates you, stop. Count silently. 1, 2, 3. Then respond. Not before, not after. At the moment of deliberate choice. That is mastery. That is mental toughness. That is power. Think about it in real life. You are in a meeting. A colleague challenges your idea aggressively. Your first impulse is to fire back, to defend yourself, to prove them wrong. That's the automatic reaction. That's what most people do. But if you pause just 3 seconds, you gain perspective. You hear the full statement. You observe the energy in the room. You consider the consequences of your words. And then you respond deliberately, calmly, strategically, powerfully. That pause transforms you from a reactive participant into a dominant presence. That is the key. That is the weapon. That is your edge. Negotiators know this. High-stakes negotiations, hostage situations, or boardroom battles, they all rely on pause. They wait. They let the other person reveal their intentions. They absorb the tension. They let the pressure build. And then, when the moment is right, they strike with precision. Not because they are faster, not because they are louder, because they controlled their timing. They controlled their reactions. They controlled the pause. And that is how advantage is gained. Repeat it. 3 seconds, one choice, total control. Make it part of your identity. Now, here's the deeper truth. Pause gives you access to clarity. Most people speak or act when their mind is clouded by emotion, stress, or fear. They make poor decisions because they are blinded by the moment. Pause allows you to see clearly. Pause allows you to observe objectively. Pause allows you to respond with purpose, not impulse. Every pause you take trains your mind to resist chaos. Every pause strengthens your self-control. Every pause reinforces your discipline. That is the path to mastery. That is mental armor in action. Let's talk about real-world application. Imagine someone insults you. A text message, a comment, a harsh word. Something that triggers anger. Most people react immediately. They fire off a response. They regret it within seconds. You pause. 1, 2, 3. You observe the intent. You assess the value of responding. And if you respond, it is strategic, measured, and deliberate. You don't let emotions drive your actions. You let discipline drive your actions. That is power. That is the difference between reacting and dominating. That is the key. Here's another scenario. You are under pressure. A deadline is approaching. Stress is mounting. Your mind races. You feel panic rising. Most people act impulsively under stress. They make mistakes, overlook details, and lose control. But you pause. 1, 2, 3. You take a breath. You prioritize. You respond with focus. You act with precision. That pause is your shield. That pause is your sword. That pause separates mediocrity from excellence. That is the essence of deliberate action. That is control. That is discipline. That is power. You have to practice the 3-second pause. Not just once, not occasionally. Every day, every interaction, every challenge, every trigger. Start small. When someone interrupts you, when you feel irritation, when you're tempted to react impulsively, pause, count, respond deliberately. Expand it into larger scenarios, conflicts, negotiations, stressful decisions. Make pause a habit. Make it automatic. Make it your default response. Because once it becomes instinct, you gain control over your life, your emotions, and your outcomes. That is the key. That mastery. Let's talk about internal pause too. Your thoughts, your impulses, your fears. Most people react internally without thinking. I can't do this. I'll fail. I'm not ready. That is internal chaos. That is self-sabotage. Pause. Count silently. Assess. Decide. Choose deliberate thought instead of reactive panic. Replace the thought with discipline. 3 seconds. One choice. Total control. Repeat it. Reinforce it. Make it automatic. Your internal pause creates mental toughness. Your external pause creates authority. Together, they make you untouchable. That is power. That discipline. That transformation. Here's the drill to implement immediately. Practice daily micropauses, small interruptions, texts, minor provocations. Count 1, 2, 3. Respond deliberately. Scale up. Apply pause in bigger scenarios, meetings, arguments, high-pressure decisions. Notice how influence, clarity, and control grow. Reinforce with repetition. Say the mantra before every challenge. 3 seconds, one choice, total control. Embed it into your identity. Pause is more than a tool. Pause is a mindset. Pause is a signal to yourself and the world that you are not controlled by emotion. Pause is the birth of discipline. Pause is the core of mental armor. Pause gives you the edge over everyone who reacts impulsively. Pause elevates you above chaos. Pause transforms pressure into opportunity. That is the key. That is the path to mastery. That is the way to better life. You have mastered silence in Chapter 5. You have built mental armor in Chapter 4. Now you are learning to apply that armor with deliberate timing. The 3-second pause ensures that every choice you make is intentional. Every word you speak carries weight. Every action you take serves your objectives. You are no longer at the mercy of emotion, stress, or chaos. You have control. You have influence. You have power. Repeat it, internalize it, and practice it until it is reflexive. 3 seconds, one choice, total control. You mastered the lesson of the pause. You now understand that every second before a reaction is your moment of dominance. You know that every choice made deliberately multiplies your power. You see that the world rewards patience, strategy, and control. Now, let's take this skill even further, combining it with deliberate action and relentless focus.
Chapter 7. Stop seeking approval. Let me make something crystal clear right now. Most people live their lives trying to please others. They chase likes, they chase compliments, they chase approval from friends, bosses, strangers, even family. And in the process, they surrender their power. They surrender control. They surrender themselves. Here's the harsh truth. Seeking approval is a choice, and it's a choice that destroys your mental toughness, your clarity, and your influence. Repeat it. I don't need approval. I only need control. That is the key. That is the mindset that separates the weak from the unstoppable. Approval is a trap. It is a chain. It is a leash.
When you rely on external validation, you give your emotional state to someone else. Your mood depends on their opinion. Your confidence depends on their recognition. Your decisions depend on their judgment. That is weakness disguised as connection. That is chaos disguised as friendship. That is why people who constantly seek approval are exhausted, anxious, and reactive. And you don't have to be that person. You don't need their permission. You don't need their praise. You don't need their validation. You have a choice every day, every moment, every decision. That is power. That is control. That is mental toughness. Let's talk about the real-world consequences. Social media is the perfect example. Endless likes, endless comments, endless approval-seeking loops. People post for attention, react to every notification, measure self-worth by digital affirmation. And what happens? Emotional roller coaster, anxiety, regret, overreaction. Every like is temporary. Every comment fades. Every validation is fleeting. It is not real power. It is not control. It is distraction. It is weakness. And most importantly, it is avoidable. That is the key. That is the lesson. Repeat it. I don't need approval. I only need control. Now let's make this personal. Imagine you are in a meeting. You have an idea. You hesitate because you are worried about how it will be received. You fear judgment. You fear disapproval. And guess what? Hesitation kills opportunity. Hesitation signals weakness. Hesitation allows others to control your narrative. But if you remove the need for approval, something changes. You speak your truth. You act decisively. You make choices based on strategy, not reaction. You gain control. You gain respect. You gain power. That is mental discipline. That is transformation. That is mastery. Step 1. Recognize the moments you seek approval. Most of the time, it's automatic. You post a photo hoping for likes. You ask for feedback hoping for validation. You apologize unnecessarily hoping to be liked. Notice it. Observe it. Name it. You have a choice. And when you see it, you can break the habit. That is the key. That is the first step towards self-control. That is mental freedom. Repeat it. I don't need approval. I only need control. Drill it. Repeat it. Make it instinctive. Step 2. Shift your focus inward. Instead of asking, what will they think? Ask, what will I do? What will I achieve? What will serve my purpose? Internal metrics, not external validation, guide powerful people. Your performance, your discipline, your clarity, these are the only measures that matter. Your focus should be on action, not reaction. Execution, not applause. Results, not recognition. That is the path to independence. That is the path to mental armor. That is to total control. You have a choice. That is the key. Repeat, I don't need approval. I only need control. Step 3. Build internal confidence. Approval seeking is a symptom of low internal trust. If you don't trust your judgment, your instincts, your choices, you will constantly look outward. Strengthen your inner authority. Make decisions based on strategy, facts, and your values. Trust your instincts. Trust your process. Trust your preparation. And when others react, it does not shake you. It does not distract you. You are grounded. You are disciplined. You are untouchable. That is power. That is control. That is the key. Repeat it. I don't need approval. I only need control. Let's consider another example, personal relationships. Many people adjust themselves to gain favor. They compromise values, they over-apologize, they react emotionally. And what does it achieve? Temporary comfort, long-term weakness. Now imagine the opposite. You act with integrity. You communicate deliberately. You make choices that align with your values. You do not seek permission. You do not seek praise. You do not bend for approval. And what happens? Respect grows. Trust solidifies. Authority emerges. Influence becomes natural.
Discipline creates power. That is the key. That is transformation. That is freedom. Practical drill. Identify one approval-seeking habit each day. It could be social media, work, or personal interaction. Pause before acting. Ask, am I doing this for control or approval? Choose control. Speak, act, or decide based on strategy, not external validation. Reinforce with repetition. Say the mantra out loud. I don't need approval. I only need control. Here's the hard truth. People will always judge you. They will always criticize you. They will always have opinions. And that's not your problem. Your problem is giving them power over your mind, your emotions, and your decisions. Stop. Stop now. Stop seeking approval. Stop measuring yourself by external standards. Stop reacting to everyone else's judgment. You have a choice. You always have a choice. You can let them control you, or you can take control of yourself. That is the difference between ordinary and unstoppable. That is the key. That is the lesson. Repeat it. I don't need approval. I only need control. Internal discipline is the ultimate freedom. When you stop chasing approval, every interaction becomes a tool rather than a trap. Every decision becomes deliberate rather than reactive. Every reaction becomes controlled rather than impulsive. Your emotional energy is yours. Your mental space is yours. Your actions are deliberate. You are no longer a prisoner of opinion, judgment, or reaction. That is discipline. That is transformation. That is power. You mastered silence in Chapter 5. You mastered the pause in Chapter 6. Now you are mastering independence from external influence. You are building self-reliance. You are building mental sovereignty. You are learning that control over your emotions and actions is your greatest asset, not the fleeting praise of others. And when you integrate this skill into every interaction, you elevate your life, your decisions, and your outcomes. You stopped seeking approval. You took back your power. You chose control over reaction. You chose discipline over chaos. And that is the path to mastery. You are no longer reactive. You are strategic. You are deliberate. You are unstoppable. Now, take this lesson and focus it on the next battlefield: your energy, your priorities, your results.
Chapter 8. Transform stress into fuel. Stress is not your enemy. Stress is not a curse. Stress is not the thing that breaks you. Stress is energy. Stress is raw power. Stress is pressure that can either crush you or launch you. And here is the truth most people refuse to accept. You have a choice. You can let stress drain you, or you can convert it into fuel. That's the key. That's the discipline. That's the difference between people who panic and people who perform. Repeat after me. Stress is my fuel. Pressure is my power. If you can internalize those words, everything changes. Your mindset changes. Your habits change. Your reactions change. Your entire identity shifts from frustration to focus, from fear to force, from chaos to control. Let's get real. Most people crumble under stress because they misunderstand it. They think stress is a signal to withdraw, to freeze, to break down. They think stress is a sign of weakness or failure. But stress is a signal for action. Stress is your body preparing you to respond. Stress is your mind sharpening, your energy rising, your instincts activating. Stress is a natural amplifier, and an amplifier can either distort or enhance depending on what you do with it. You have a choice. You always have a choice. Stress doesn't break you. Your reaction to stress breaks you. Let me say that again. Stress doesn't break you. Your reaction does. And that reaction is under your control. That reaction is a skill, a discipline, a habit. Look at high-level performers, the ones you admire, the ones you study, the ones you watch dominate their fields. Entrepreneurs operating under impossible deadlines.
Athletes facing world-class opponents with millions watching. Soldiers making life or death decisions under extreme pressure. These people aren't calm because they lack stress. They are calm because they control stress. They channel it. They redirect it. They convert it into precision, into focus, into drive. Stress doesn't shut them down. Stress activates them. That is the key. That is the difference. That is the standard you must adopt. Most people run from stress. Top performers run toward it. Most people complain about pressure. Top performers demand it. Most people collapse under weight. Top performers rise because of it. Say it again. Stress is my fuel. Pressure is my power. Let's break it down into something you can use right now. Real-world, actionable, no-excuse instructions. Step 1. Redefine the sensation. When you feel stress, your heart racing, your breath tightening, your mind speeding up, don't call it anxiety. Don't call it panic. Don't label it weakness. Name it correctly. Call it activation. Call it energy. Call it fuel. Your body is preparing you. Your mind is mobilizing. This is not collapse. This is readiness. Your inner dialogue determines everything. If you tell yourself, I'm overwhelmed, you shut down. If you tell yourself, I'm activated, you take control. Language creates the frame. Frame creates the reaction. You have a choice. Choose the frame that empowers you. That's the key. Step 2. Convert energy into action. Stress becomes destructive only when it has nowhere to go, when it builds, when it sits, when you suppress it. That's when stress becomes anxiety. That's when stress becomes chaos. Action is the release valve. Action is the conversion. Action is the discipline. Move your body. Start the task. Make the call. Write the plan. Take the step. Action converts stress into progress. Inaction converts stress into suffering. Which one you choose determines your entire life. Step 3. Build pressure tolerance. You don't rise to your expectations. You rise to your training. And if you want to master stress, you must increase your tolerance for pressure. You do this by putting yourself into controlled, difficult situations on purpose. Small stressors, daily challenges, intentional discomfort. Wake up earlier, lift heavier, speak when it's uncomfortable, take the task nobody wants. Expose yourself to pressure in microdoses. This is how you build resilience. This is how you strengthen your emotional system. This is how you train yourself to operate under fire. Pressure is not the enemy. Pressure is the gym. Stress is not the flaw. Stress is the tool. Repeat it. Stress is my fuel. Pressure is my power. Step 5. Practice controlled breathing. Real performers regulate their bodies under stress with one thing: breath. Not meditation, not crystals, not motivation. Breath. One slow inhale, one controlled exhale, repeated 3 times. This creates instant physiological control. This gives you back your clarity. This resets your nervous system. This is discipline. This is mastery. That is control. Step 6. Convert pressure into purpose. The final step is meaning. Stress feels different when you attach it to purpose. A parent working 2 jobs isn't collapsing. They are protecting their family. A soldier in combat isn't panicking. They are defending their people. An entrepreneur grinding through uncertainty isn't suffering. They are building a future. Purpose turns pressure into power. Purpose turns fear into fuel. Purpose turns stress into strength. And you have a purpose. Even if you haven't defined it fully, you feel it. Inside your chest, inside your ambition, inside your hunger. Stress is not the signal to quit. Stress is the signal that you're touching the edge of your potential. And that is where growth happens. Say it again, and louder this time. Stress is my fuel. Pressure is my power. This chapter isn't about comfort. It's not about calm. It's not about escaping stress. It's about mastering stress, redirecting it, owning it. It's not about avoiding pressure. It's about using pressure. It's not about weakness. It's about discipline. You have a choice. Every moment, every challenge, every wave of pressure. You can break or you can build. You can hide or you can rise. You can collapse or you can convert. Stress doesn't control you. You control stress. And that is power. That is discipline. That is mental toughness. And now that you understand how to transform stress into fuel, it's time to confront another force that destroys most people from the inside. Something quieter, something more subtle, something far more dangerous. The chaos of distraction. You mastered pressure. Now it's time to master focus.
Chapter 9. Predict the trigger. You cannot master your emotions if you always arrive late to the moment. You cannot control your reactions if you only wake up after the damage is done. Emotional control begins before the conflict, before the disrespect, before the misunderstanding. Real power comes from foresight. Real strength comes from prediction. Real discipline comes from knowing exactly what triggers you before it happens. Say it with me. I see it coming. I am ready. I do not react. This is the chapter where you build emotional intelligence, not as a soft skill, but as a weapon, as a strategic advantage, as a shield. You're not here to survive emotional chaos. You're here to neutralize it before it even forms. That's the key. That's the discipline. That's the difference between people who lose control and people who lead. Let's start with a truth most people avoid. Your triggers are predictable. They are not random. They are not mysterious. They are not surprising. You get triggered by the same patterns, the same people, the same tone of voice, the same disrespect, the same behaviors, the same situations, again and again. And here's your wake-up call. You have a choice. You can stay blind to your triggers, or you can map them with ruthless clarity. Because once you predict the trigger, you eliminate its power. Once you see it coming, it cannot control you. Once you name it, it cannot break you. Say it again. I see it coming. I am ready. I do not react. Let's walk through the strategy. You need tools. You need structure. You need a repeatable process. Step 1. Identify the pattern. Every trigger follows a pattern, a look, a tone, a certain time of day, a certain person, a specific sentence, a long silence, a passive-aggressive gesture. Triggers are habits, emotional habits, and habits repeat. Think about your life. Think about the last 5 times you lost control. Were they caused by 5 different things? No. They were caused by one root pattern expressed in 5 different moments. Maybe it was disrespect. Maybe it was rejection. Maybe it was being ignored. Maybe it was feeling underestimated. Maybe it was being lied to. Maybe it was someone crossing a boundary. Your emotional reactions are not random. They are trained, conditioned, reinforced, predictable. This chapter demands honesty. Real honesty, brutal honesty. Name your patterns. Expose them. Stop pretending you don't know what triggers you. You do. And the moment you identify the pattern, the moment you say the words out loud, everything changes. Because now you're not reacting blindly. You're preparing consciously. Step 2. Identify the people. You know exactly who triggers you. Everyone does. There are people who drain you, people who provoke you, people who manipulate emotional reactions out of you, people who poke your insecurities because they need power over you. And here's the harsh truth. Some people are not triggering you by accident. Some people do it intentionally. Drama gives them control. Chaos gives them comfort. Your reaction gives them power.
And you've given them that power for years. Not anymore. Not after this chapter. You have a choice. You can continue letting these people pull your emotional strings, or you can cut the strings entirely. When you know who the trigger is, you can prepare. You can plan. You can enter the situation with awareness, not emotion, with clarity, not chaos. Say it. I see it coming. I am ready. I do not react. Step 3. Identify the situations. There are environments that bring out the worst in you. Certain rooms, certain conversations, certain routines, certain topics. It might be a stressful workplace. It might be financial conversations. It might be family gatherings. It might be social situations. It might be expectations you place on yourself. You walk into these situations unprepared, and then you act surprised when your emotions take over. That surprise is the problem. That's the weakness. That's the reason you feel out of control. But nothing about these situations is new. You've lived them before. You've survived them before. You've reacted in the same way before. And once again, you have a choice. Enter blind or enter prepared. Walk in reactive or walk in disciplined. Let emotions lead or let strategy lead. Predict the situation that triggers you. Prepare before you step into it. Visualize the moment before it arrives. This is not overthinking. This is training. This is discipline. This is mastery. Step 4. Preemptive awareness. Let's talk about one of the biggest emotional trigger zones, relationships. Romantic relationships, family relationships, friendships. Most conflict happens not because of what the other person does, but because you failed to anticipate your reaction. Here's an example. Your partner raises a concern. You feel criticized. Your body tenses. Your ego flares. A simple conversation becomes a battle. Not because the conflict was unavoidable, but because you didn't see your trigger coming. Had you recognized the pattern, I get defensive when I feel judged, you could have paused. You could have breathed. You could have responded with clarity instead of emotion. This is preemptive awareness. This is emotional foresight. This is the discipline that saves relationships. You cannot control someone else's tone. You cannot control their mood. You cannot control their words. But you can control your preparation. You can control your awareness. You control your reaction. You don't need their permission to stay calm. You don't need their cooperation to stay disciplined. You don't need their validation to stay strong. Say the mantra again. I see it coming. I am ready. I do not react. Step 6. Choose the pause. The pause is your shield. The pause is your advantage. The pause is your superpower. When you feel the trigger rising, stop, breathe, delay the reaction by 3 seconds. 3 seconds is enough to prevent a fight. 3 seconds is enough to prevent self-sabotage. 3 seconds is enough to replace emotion with logic. Your life changes in that pause. Your relationships change in that pause. Your identity changes in that pause. That's the key. That's the skill. That's the discipline. Say it again. I see it coming. I am ready. I do not react. Final message of this chapter. Emotional control is not built in the moment. It is built before the moment. Mastery begins with prediction. Power begins with awareness. Strength begins with preparation. You cannot control the world, but you can control your readiness. You can control your awareness. You control your response. You have a choice. Choose discipline over impulse. Choose foresight over surprise. Choose strategy over emotion. You predicted the trigger. Now you're ready for the next evolution of emotional mastery, the skill that separates the powerful from the fragile. You learned how to anticipate pressure. Now let's learn how to move through it with absolute calm.
Chapter 10. Mastery is a habit. Mastery doesn't happen by accident.
It doesn't appear overnight. It doesn't come from motivation, inspiration, or the perfect mood. Mastery is repetition. Mastery is routine. Mastery is a habit. And here's the truth you've avoided for too long. Control is not an event. Control is a lifestyle. You don't become disciplined once. You become disciplined every day. That's the key. You have a choice every single morning, every single hour, every single moment. The world lies to you. It tells you mastery is talent, or luck, or natural ability. But you know better now. You've come too far to believe that. Mastery is built the same way strength is built. Repetition, consistency, unshakable commitment to the basics. You don't need their permission. You don't need approval. You don't need the perfect circumstances. You only need you. You only discipline. Control is a habit. Mastery is a choice. And you choose mastery every day. Let's break this down. Mastery begins in the small things. People think control shows up only in the big moments. When someone disrespects you, when stress spikes, when pressure hits hard. But mastery is built before the big moments ever appear. It's built in the small, invisible decisions, the quiet choices, the moments nobody sees. You wake up. Your mind wants comfort. Your discipline demands action. You choose which voice wins. You open your phone. A notification tempts your attention. A distraction pulls at your energy. You choose whether you react or refocus. You feel irritation rising. Your ego wants to snap back. Your discipline tells you to pause. You choose which identity you strengthen. Every decision is a vote. Every vote reinforces who you become. Mastery is a habit. Control is a habit. And habits are built one choice at a time. You have a choice. That's the key. Look at the highest performers in the world. If you study CEOs, elite soldiers, top athletes, you'll notice something about them. It's not that they're smarter. It's not that they're braver. It's not that they're naturally calm. It's that they have routines that create calm, rituals that create discipline, habits that create mastery. A Navy SEAL doesn't wait to feel ready before training. A CEO doesn't wait for motivation before making critical decisions. A world-class athlete doesn't negotiate with their excuses. They show up every day. No debate, no drama, no negotiations. They know something you're learning right now. Discipline removes doubt. Routine removes weakness. Structure builds strength. When you follow a routine long enough, something shifts. Your emotional reactivity decreases. Your clarity increases. Your self-respect rises. Mastery becomes your baseline, not your peak, your baseline. That's the difference between the average and the exceptional. That's the difference between losing control and owning control. It's not about talent. It's about discipline. It's not about mood. It's about habit. You choose mastery every day. Your routine creates your emotional stability. Here's a truth most people will never understand. Emotionally strong people aren't naturally calm. They're disciplined. The person with a calm mind is the person with a controlled lifestyle, a predictable routine, a structured schedule, a set of habits that eliminate chaos. Emotional chaos comes from mental clutter. Mental clutter comes from lack of structure. Lack of structure comes from lack of discipline. So what does that mean? It means your daily habits are not optional. They are your foundation. They are your armor. They are your protection against the world's noise. You want emotional control? Create routines. Build rituals. Master the basics. Wake up on time. Move your body. Clean your space. Prioritize your tasks. Eliminate distractions. End your day intentionally. These actions look small, but they build something massive. They build certainty. They build control.
They build identity. Because when you control your day, you control your mind. When you control your habits, you control your emotional reactions. It's not about mood. It's about discipline. You have a choice. The moment you break your routine, you break your mastery. Let's be clear. Skipping one positive habit won't ruin your life, but it weakens your identity. It sends a signal to your mind. I don't have to follow through. And once you send that signal, it gets easier to repeat it. One skipped habit becomes two. Two become a week. A week becomes a collapse. But the opposite is also true. One disciplined action reinforces strength. One controlled choice reinforces identity. And identity compounds. Mastery is momentum. You either build it or you break it. You don't need their permission. You only consistency. Control is a habit. Mastery is a habit. You choose mastery every day. What you must do starting today. Let's make this practical. Step 1. Identify your non-negotiables. These are the habits that anchor your emotional stability. No compromises. No excuses. Step 2. Protect your routine. Guard it like your life depends on it, because your emotional life does. Step 3. Execute without thinking. Remove debate. Remove drama. Remove negotiation. Your routine is your command. Your discipline is your authority. Step 4. Track your consistency. Not for perfection, for identity. Every completed habit says, I am disciplined. I am in control. I choose mastery. Step 5. Repeat every day. The days you least want to do it matter the most. Those are the days that define you. Those are the days that build the strongest identity. Those are the days champions are made. You have a choice. That's the key. You choose mastery every day. The mantra of mastery. Say it out loud. Say it in your mind. Say it until it becomes part of you. Control is a habit. Mastery is a choice. I choose mastery every day. Repeat it again. Control is a habit. Mastery is a choice. I choose mastery every day. This is who you are becoming. This is who you are training yourself to be. A person of discipline. A person of control. A person of quiet, unshakable strength. Not because you got lucky, not because you were gifted, but because you built it, habit by habit, choice by choice. You don't need permission. You don't need validation. You need discipline. Mastery is a habit, and now you live by it. Now you see it clearly. Your reactions shape your reality. Every argument you avoid, every pause you take, every emotion you control builds your power. You are no longer a victim of your impulses. You are untouchable. You are unshakable. You are in control. Life will test you, but now you have the tools to rise every single time. The question is not if life will challenge you, it's when. And when it does, I challenge you. Pause, think, respond. Own your mind, master your reactions, master your life. Start today, not tomorrow. Start now.